all the participants, and welcome to this a 2-day workshop on knowledge mission, transforming Andhra Pradesh into education and knowledge hub. This is organizing by the Department of Higher Education, Government of Andhra Pradesh, and it is the first workshop under State Project Directorate, Rashtriya Uchita Shiksha Abhiyan. So I once again welcome to all the participants and welcome to our dignitaries, Secretary Madam Sumita Davara IAS, and our Commissioner Madam Srimati Udaya Lakshmi Garu IAS, and the Director, Center for Innovations Public Systems, Hyderabad, Sri Chakrapani Garu IAS. I once again welcome to all of you. I welcome our Secretary Madam to come out of the dais, Smita Dawar. Sir. I welcome Chakrapani Garu, IAS, come out of the dais. I welcome our Commissioner Madam, Udaya Lakshmi Madam, IAS, to preside over the function, the inaugural session, and to deliver the inaugural address. So thank you very much. I'm very sorry. I have to introduce to all of you the facilitator for this entire 2-day workshop, Dr. Lalita Iyer. He is the managing trustee from the Bangalore. So I welcome Madam to come out the dais because she is going to handle the entire 2-day sessions of this 2-day workshop. I welcome. Thank you, Madam.
Friends, very good morning to all of you. For today's workshop, I wholeheartedly welcome our Principal Secretary Srimati Smita Davara Garu, and also SIPS Director and IS Officer Retired Mr. Chakrapani Garu, and Mrs. Lalita Iyer, who is going to conduct the entire proceedings of the day today regarding this workshop. And all the other friends, Vice Chancellor B.R. Ambedkar University is there, another Vice Chancellor from Nanaya University, and all other professors and 2 youngsters who just joined with our department 2 days back. I welcome all of you. You're all aware that today's function is mainly how to make the state of Andhra Pradesh as a knowledge hub. How to make this state as a knowledge hub. All of you are aware that in the month of February, we had 2-day workshop in ISB, and all of you must have participated except myself. That day I couldn't come because of some other reason. So all this 40-member executive group was there in this ISB meeting, and you got an idea because our Honorable Chief Minister, he gave a mandate that by 2022, our state should be one of the 3 best states in the country. So how to make this as a best state in the country? For that, 5 grids, 7 missions he has formulated, and out of that 7 missions, this knowledge mission is one such mission. So because we all belong to this education department, we are dwelling upon the details into this knowledge mission. So within this knowledge mission, to make this state as a knowledge hub means we need to have the advice of some of the people who have highest repute, expertise, experience in the field of higher education, industry and entrepreneurship. For that we have constituted a board called State Knowledge Advisory Board. So the board members are also there, but today unfortunately nobody has come. They are going to come on video conference in the afternoon session, So they'll share their advice and observations as far as this group is concerned. Mostly here, all the members which belong to the executive group are assembled here. So today we have to discuss. The other day when the Honorable CM launched this knowledge mission from Visakhapatnam Andhra University premises, he launched it in the month of April on 8th. So for that we have prepared a document also, a vision document. That's a draft vision document, and a web portal was also launched on that day. This web portal was kept in public domain, seeking the advice and suggestions of various vice chancellors, educationists, experts in the field of education, how they can give suggestions and all. But still we have to get some suggestions. So many suggestions are required. See, these suggestions mainly are required in this following field of activities. Mainly, if you see that our GR is very, very low. Gross enrollment ratio in higher education is very low. It's something around 20%. We have to bring this 20% GR to 40%. How to bring? What are the steps we have to take? Then the quality of education, you all aware that it is not up to the mark in our colleges. So how to improve the quality of education? To improve the quality of education, we have to train the faculty. So how to train the faculty? Where to train the faculty? What are the modules which you have to introduce to the faculty to train them to get our goals? Our goals are equity, quality, excellence in the field of higher education with partnerships. So how to get the equity, quality, excellence with the assistance of the partnership? Then if you see today our universities or colleges, they are not self-sustained. Every year they depend on the budget which the government is going to release. But if you look at the universities of the foreign countries, they themselves are self-sustained. Self-financed courses are there. They are earning for themselves. They are surviving on their own. But here no such institute is there except a few private institutes. So why not we make our government educational institute or private educational institute a self-sustained institute? So in order to make that a self-sustained institute, what are the measures which we have to take? What are the advices which we have to follow? What are the reforms which we need to bring? What is the research involved in it? What is the innovation we have to have it? How to transform this institute as a best institute? The aim of our Chief Minister is we have to provide world-class education to the student. How to provide world-class education without partnership with the foreign universities, without partnership with the private universities, without partnership with some educated persons who have expertise, repute and enthusiasm to help us. So in that direction today's meeting will go ahead. And these days, choice-based credit system is also introduced on a trial basis in few of the colleges. So why not we introduce this choice-based credit system? Why can't we give credits to the students? And why can't we make them as work-ready force? Because our state needs skilled manpower, not only state. Our country needs skilled manpower, the world needs it. So how to make our students a skilled human manpower hub? Our state as a skilled manpower hub, why can't we make it? In that direction we have to think. Why? Because all of you are from the colleges and universities. Today the BA student or BCom student or BSc student, if you look at them, 75% of them, they land up in some small petty jobs only. Only 25% of the people are coming up to the higher level. Why? This 75% is lagging behind without any employability skill. So that employability skill we have to provide. How to provide? So what are the add-on courses we have to add to this BA, BCom or BSc to make that particular subject more attractive to the student, more attractive to the industry, more attractive to the outside world? In all these directions we have to go ahead today. So with this, I don't want to tell much about it. Anyway, so many people are there and all of you are going to participate, and this responsibility lies on our shoulders, and we have to frame this document in such a way and then formulate certain guidelines. Tomorrow we have to execute it, then we have to show the result, Then with that result only we can make this state as a knowledge hub or knowledge society by 2022. That is the aim of our state government. So in that direction we have to go. Now I request our Madam Srimati Smita Davra Garu to give her keynote address. I just wanted to give only the welcome address. With this I thank all of you. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning to all. I welcome all of you to today's two-day seminar. I do know that it has been a little bit of a struggle to get this seminar together from our side. There were a number of things we were trying to attend to, how to do this seminar. It is the first seminar under RUSA, how to make it meaningful. It's hot summer, all of you have also come out of very big responsibilities on the field to attend this two-day seminar, we do realize. And how to ensure that there is a roadmap coming out of this seminar so that when you go back, you feel that, yes, it was a very significant intervention which we all did in these 2 days. So it has been a challenge, and I thank Uday Lakshmi for her support and for making this possible, her team. I would thank them all. I thank Lalita for being so patient with us as we were trying to disentangle the bureaucratic ropes to make this possible. I thank Sir Dr. Chakrapani for giving us this fantastic institute, for hosting this workshop. I already feel the environment is so relaxed and conducive to this two-day seminar. I'm getting that feeling. We have been speaking a lot about the knowledge mission, and all of you are in the field. You know what are the challenges, you know what are the needs in the field today, and you know what are the objectives. Yet I will just quickly go through a few just to set the tone for our seminar. We all know that our government's vision is to have Andhra Pradesh as one of 3 top performing states in the country by 2022 and 23. This is an onerous responsibility, and it's not going to come to us without extraordinary hard work and extraordinary strategies. Even when we write the exams, now we are about to conduct the MSET very soon, and all of us have experience of either writing the competitive exams ourselves or our children being prepared for it. There is always a strategy, and there is always a difference between horse sense and when I was, for instance, writing my civil services, it was a very hard task for me to crack the exam. And I realized very soon that there is a difference between donkey work and horse work. So one has to work like a horse after knowing the strategies rather than simply carrying a load which really gets you nowhere. So it is to learn these strategies, how to have horse sense and reach our objectives, that we are organizing this seminar to gain from the wisdom of all of you, and how to become one of the 3 top performing states in the country by the targeted year. This would require a lot of investment in human capital, and investment in human capital, I need not repeat once again, will bring growth, development, incomes for the households. There will be impressive economic returns. Hence, higher education is a priority for the state government. Yesterday, I was reading a newspaper article on the Economic Development Board, which has been constituted in Andhra Pradesh, in which higher education is one of the 5-6 subjects which has been selected. So we can imagine the importance to higher education. We all are pretty bogged down by the fact that the GR is only around 20%. That is a depressing figure. At the same time, every child need not go to university, we know that, but every child deserves the opportunity to get the best education possible. And if we compare the average number of years of schooling in India with other countries, we don't come out well. Average years of schooling in India is something like how much? The last I know it was 4.5 years. China is almost 10 years. And China is also as populous a country, developing country like us. So we have a long way to go. And then we get into higher education. okay, we can't expect 100% GR, but we can expect a much better GR with more equity and better quality of education. We need to involve all the stakeholders. We are a handful of people here. We think of strategies. One strategy should also be how to involve the stakeholders. Whenever I sit in my office, a lot of times people from the associations just barge into my room, and invariably they bring some public representatives so that they don't have to keep waiting. They just come into my room and they start representing their problems, and the problems are always about the salary issues, the pay scales, the transfers. I would really feel so happy if everybody starts talking about how to improve the quality of education, what are the strategies, what are the doables, how to help bring more employability programs which are meaningful, how to collaborate with the local industry, how to have project work, internships for students, how to make it meaningful for students to get a good education, how to bring about faculty improvement and things like that, how to bring in private investment, some ideas for an education city, for developing education hubs, for networking the various institutions within the state, learning from the best practices in the country or in the world. So we have a huge objective before us, making Andhra Pradesh a world-class education hub. I think it's a great responsibility, and to deliver it in the next 5 years is something which is not easy. And for that we need to take all stakeholders on board. How to do that? We should come out with some very specific strategies. We have a whole lot of mission objectives. We know all of them. I've just stated a few. Uday Lakshmi has stated a few. During these 2 days, we'll be visiting all these mission objectives, whether they are about educational inequities or improving GR or quality of education or holistic development of students. We are not even talking about sports. We are not even talking about Olympic medals. We are talking about things which are very basic. So how to do that? You know, it's high time. Most of us have crossed our middle age. A lot of us, probably we are in older middle age. And we haven't seen a huge change in the country where higher education is concerned, where employability programs, sports, extracurricular activities, holistic development of students is concerned. Most of us have kids whom we would rather send abroad to study to get the best of education rather than put them in institutions which are in India. So nothing really has changed. In our times, most of us studied in India. Today, most of us are sending our children abroad. So things have not really got better. And this is our opportunity, this is our time to contribute to the country and leave some lasting contribution in our field for generations to come. I would request all of us to involve in this program with our hearts and souls. Personally speaking, I was also putting together all these ideas and all since last 2.5 months, 3 months. I haven't been thinking of higher education because I was doing other things and I was posted in other places. I was looking for some motivation and I was thinking, okay, my mind is in this, my time is in this program, my work is very important to me, it's what drives me in my life, it's what anchors me in my life, but why is motivation not coming? And I was really thinking what to do. Why am I not getting that spark which helps us to do extraordinary things? And I thought, and I analyzed that one major reason was that I was not in touch with the people for whom this change has to be brought. I was not in, and those are not the teachers, please. I was not in touch with the students, and that is what was happening, and that is what I realized when on 8th of April at Pratibha Puraskars, which were organized by Department of Higher Education, I realized after the program, when students came to me in Andhra University and they started talking about what are the avenues for employment for them, and they said, you know, since 2 years we haven't had notification for the state civil service exam, and we are studying, but if there is no opportunity for us to write the exam, how do you expect us to do well in life? I could feel their helplessness. First of all, the only thing they know is to write the state civil service or maybe a few bank exams. Where are all those jobs which we've been talking about under Make in India and employability programs? They are local industry, we can connect them. Where are the employability programs? You and I will take loans and send our kids abroad. But these are children who are from real India and who are today trying their best to climb up in life, to reach their aspirational goals through education. But they are not getting the kind of counseling and guidance which they should get at the university level, at the college level. They are not being enabled by the faculty through meaningful collaborations with local industry on skill development, employability programs, and so on and so forth. Similarly, when I'd gone to it was SV University, I saw that the children who were, there was a science exhibition, and the children who were trying to explain the exhibits, who were all around me, I felt they could do with a lot more encouragement, with a lot more awareness of the environment. And for that, the teachers have to treat these children like they treat their own children at home. Like we are worried about the careers of our own children and their education, we need to be worried about the education and careers of these children. And it is only when our heart and soul gets into this work, into this task, that we will all feel motivated to achieve something. Incentives are never in form of extra money or material things. Incentives are always in the form of achieving what you aspire to achieve, what really touches your soul. So with these words, I conclude and wish you all the best in this seminar, and I hope I will be able to participate as much as I can, and we'll see at the end of the seminar what we achieved in terms of concrete, a doable roadmap to go forward. Thank you.
Which has given thinking in the minds of all the people who have gathered here. Now I request Sir Chakrapani Garu, who is a great educationist. Earlier he was a commissioner for collegiate education. Now he is looking after this institute, inviting so many national and international faculties and throwing light on various subjects in various fields of activity. Sir, I request you to throw light on education department where you have worked, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Sumita Davra, Secretary, Higher Education, Mrs. Uday Lakshmi, Commissioner, College and Technical Education, Mrs. Lalita Iyer, very distinguished educationists and friends. In the first instance, I would like to thank the Government of Andhra Pradesh and the Commissioner College Education for giving us an opportunity of being part of this whole exercise. I would like to mention at the beginning that my learning in the last 3.5 years after retirement equals my learning throughout my career. What I have learned in the last 3.5 years in terms of networking with institutions, networking with individuals, looking at bureaucracy from outside, understanding the best practices, understanding innovative practices, has not been matched by about 30 years of career. I'm not saying all of you should leave service to learn. I'm saying that if you get out of the system, get out of the box, you will learn much more. Are we doing that? Is an issue. I think Mrs. Sumita has very rightly said that I have not been able to interact with the students who are the real target group. This is what we need to keep our mind focused on. When I look at the universities, I have been in various capacities part of the education process with 2 chief ministers, joint secretary, additional secretary, special secretary finance, Commissioner Intermediate Education, MD of the SC Corporation, I have had an opportunity of interacting, understanding various layers of decision making. And I find that this country, I think this is being driven entirely by mediocrity. The effort at reaching out to grassroots on the one hand and the effort at reaching out to excellence, I think as institutions we have stopped doing that. Whether this comes out of a comfort of being happy with yourself, happy with the system, I do not know. But as parties to a process, I have repeatedly mentioned this in my various interactions. The per capita income of a citizen of Andhra Pradesh is just about 75,000 per year. And all of us get much more than that per month. Is our average commitment 12 times the per capita commitment of an average citizen of the state of Andhra Pradesh? Kindly examine. If we are not working in that direction, we have a major responsibility to do that. And as those who are in charge of educational institutions, our responsibility is far greater. You command enormous influence as teachers. Of course, the primary school teacher commands greater emotional, intellectual influence over his child than a university teacher, I admit that, but your capacity to command respect from the other layers of education administrators, I think, is far more. Are we playing that mentoring role of shaping up junior colleges, of shaping up degree colleges, of networking with grassroots institutions, of networking with government departments, of opening up the portals of the society to the students? These are issues which I think each one of us will have to reflect and see how we move forward. And let me tell you, the world is moving at a very fast pace. There is an explosion of knowledge. For all the efforts at making or curbing the spread of knowledge, knowledge can never be curbed thanks to various developments. Internet. Now, they're talking of internet neutrality, etc. Now, it's a very important discussion. It's not possible today to curb dissemination of information or knowledge. How many of us have integrated this into our own functioning in terms of revamping the syllabus of higher educational institutions in the wake of the IT explosion? Have we changed the curriculum? Have we brought in IT as a strong input into our educational syllabus? Have we facilitated the student to understand what is an optic fiber network? What is a statewide area network? What is a state data center? Have we introduced this as a precondition for teaching, administration? There are states like Kerala which have brought in digital literacy to every member of the family as long back as 14 years back. One member of each family being given digital literacy, starting with Malappuram district. I mentioned this in one or two of my interactions. States like Kerala have brought in a project called the IT at School, digitizing the textbooks, introducing textbooks, introducing tablets. Maybe it will take some time to do this, but are we in the direction of doing this? If we are not, I think it's time we did it. The second thing is, how are we linking with grassroots institutions, the common service centers, the gram panchayats? The common service center, Mi Seva Center, is a one-stop solution for replacing a lot of layers of governance. How are we linking up with these common service centers? 2.5 lakh gram panchayats are likely to be linked with a very high-speed optic fiber network in the next 2 to 3 years. Are we trying to make use of that digital IT platform for spreading knowledge? Are we trying to bring in the concept of a meta university where you offer courses from different universities? How much of our learning is online when today the best of the institutions believe in open learning? More and more institutions are resorting to open sources of learning, online courses. I do hope that we are thinking of these and trying to reform the whole of our curriculum and education. The need on the one hand to link up with infrastructure, IT infrastructure, the need on the other hand to link up with grassroots institutions, the need on the third to demystify governance by bringing in youngsters into government departments as apprentices in various grassroots institutions. I have repeatedly said, even in gram panchayats, why don't you introduce ITI students as apprentices? I have repeatedly mentioned when I was Commissioner Intermediate Education that you should bring in the A&M trainees into the government colleges. There is a course on A&M, Auxiliary Nurse Midwife, 2-year paramedical course. They should be brought into primary health centers. They should be brought into government hospitals. All my efforts during those 2-3 years did not succeed. And these poor boys and girls will have to constantly be knocking at the doorsteps of the private institutions for their on-the-job training. Which are the institutions in this country which have an excellent record? The CMC Vellore, which has an extensive networking capacity by linking the students with grassroots. Most of our medical education is totally devoid of any grassroots experience. The CMC Vellore, as also the Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Medical Sciences, Wardha, have a very strong linkage of medical students with the grassroots institutions. They have to go and spend time in the primary health centers. And one of the subjects for which students have to qualify for getting admission into the MBBS course at the Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Medical Sciences, Wardha, is Gandhian philosophy. If you don't qualify, you don't get a seat. They have to adopt families. Each medical student will have to adopt families for those 4 to 5 years of his study. Which is the other institution which has linked up with grassroots institutions? The Arvind Eye Care, Madurai. Excellent model, a retired director of public health, innovating, bringing down the cost of intraocular lenses, manufacturing lenses at a place like Madurai. With the result today, you have the equipment of Arvind Eye Care, lenses, surgical plates, surgical sutures being exported to 120 countries in the world. And people, students from foreign countries come and spend time as apprentices at that institution. So are we facilitating the linkage of the students with these institutions of excellence? This is one area probably you would like to kindly consider. The third thing is, what are our institutional linkages with the CSIR laboratories? Institutional linkages, CSIR laboratories. There are nearly 41 of them all over the country. How much of that research is linked to the local requirements, local concerns? There are 50 DRDO laboratories all over the country. What are the institutional linkages with the universities and other institutions of excellence between these? If you have any effective linkage, I would be very happy. If you do not have, kindly facilitate. A lot of work being done at the CSIR laboratories is project linked to requirements in the Western countries. I myself tried to facilitate the visit of IIT students to one of the IT-related programs in Visakhapatnam, Parvada. Some of you are aware of the high-speed broadband, which is already positioned in Parvada Mandal of Visakhapatnam. Some of you are familiar with that? There is no content. Very high-speed broadband, all the gram panchayats connected with high-speed broadband, no content. No content from education, no content from education, no content from gram panchayats. So these are issues where our own research, our own efforts, our own endeavor should be to link up the emerging IT infrastructure, provide a convergence, ensure that the software development of these takes place within the country. And we as Indians are best suited for software development because of our immense capacity to do more things at the same time than the Westerners. The Westerner is obviously focused on one thing at a time. Our capacity to do multitasking, in a way, provides us an excellent forum, excellent opportunity to do a lot of this software development. Why not the universities, the engineering colleges, the software courses develop software for this? Why can't we have an open source software? Kerala has been using open source software, EduBoss. Why can't we have an open source software? We still use the Microsoft. So these are areas, I think, where we need to ensure that a lot of work which is happening in the universities is linked. I have had the opportunity of taking a course called the DNB, Diplomat of National Board Examinations. It's a postgraduate medical degree which can be awarded by a district headquarters hospital without a medical college. A Diplomat of National Board. It's equivalent to MRCP and FRCS. A number of health secretaries in different parts of the country are not even aware of the DNB courses because they are not run in the government hospitals. 90% of the DNB courses are captured by the private nursing homes, corporate hospitals. Why can't you reformulate your syllabus in polytechnics, engineering colleges to suit the requirements of the emerging IT infrastructure in terms of this? There is a serious dearth of trained technicians in medical equipment, paramedical equipment. Lot of diagnostics the cost can be reduced by universities chipping in. There is hardly an integration of the engineering and medical subjects. The engineering colleges, the polytechnic colleges will have to reformulate their course content in terms of this. As you know, 40 to 50% of the equipment which is supplied in hospitals is at any time dysfunctional because of the very poor maintenance and the need for technically competent professionals to handle. And which are the institutions again which have a very good maintenance schedule? The institutions that I have spoken of, Arvind Eye Care and CMC Vellore. How are we looking at our own continuous professional education? There is a lot of continuous medical education, continuous engineering education, which is done by the private doctors and private engineers. I have repeatedly emphasized the need for continuous medical education in government hospitals and continuous engineering education. How is the continuous professional education being done? What are the parameters of performance? How do we monitor? Do we have we set up a documentation in the universities to monitor the continuous professional education of different persons? Professor Anil Gupta, some of you would have heard of his name. Dr. Anil Gupta? Honeybee. Professor Anil Gupta has been going around the entire country spreading the concept of the industrial clusters. The university students, engineering students, polytechnic students being positioned in different industries, small little enterprises, to understand the problems faced by the industry and to come up with, in their own manner after a 2-3 month period, to come up with solutions for improving the equipment usage, improving the performance, maintaining the equipment, etc. I tried to link this up in this state. I tried in Karnataka. I think they have institutionalized, but this state is still to do it. We tried to set up 1 or 2 meetings with the State Council of Higher Education, but I would want this to be taken forward. Why not the polytechnic students, engineering students, be taken around these small little establishments at least during the summer months or whatever is the project period, and be exposed to the various facets of running a small business. You need a lot of expertise from the accounting side in a lot of establishments. You have, with the growth of the service sector, there are tremendous opportunities for updating accounts of various establishments. Are we facilitating the positioning of the students of the commerce, etc., in these establishments? Something akin to the industrial clusters. So we probably would need to look at some of these things and see how we can take them forward. The courses relating to conflict resolution. I think you know that Lady Sri Ram College runs a full-fledged 2-year master's program in conflict resolution. How do you resolve a conflict? How do you train people to resolve a conflict? Can they be sent to areas where there are conflicts? Reconciliation. This is something which I think is worth studying. There are a lot of conflicts starting from home to the workplace and to the decision-making levels. Can these students be sent to the assemblies, Gram Panchayats, Zilla Parishad, where there are a lot of conflicts, discussions going on, and understand so that they can suggest methods? In fact, I know that the students of Lady Sri Ram College went to Kashmir, went to areas where there are conflicts, documented them, came up with their own versions. Can we do something on that? So, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of things. If only you see, today you have what is called an e-Panchayats program. There are 41 mission mode projects in Government of India which are being implemented. 41 mission mode projects. And I deal with some of the e-governance initiatives of these mission mode projects as part of a project sanctioned to us by the Department of Information Technology. There are any number of opportunities available for students and professors to get involved in these mission mode projects. One of the mission mode projects is e-panchayats. There are about 11 applications which are implemented by making use of IT platform. Can we do something? Can we train up those panchayat secretaries? Can we establish linkages? Can we send our polytechnic and engineering students or even ITI students to those areas to prepare small little estimates? Bring them into these mission mode projects and then train up, understand also probably over a period of train up. For that, our own training needs to be improved. I think all of you agree that those of us who have crossed 40 are very, very reluctant to really work at the computer. And these youngsters who are far more computer savvy, tech savvy, I think we need to get rid of that, because I've told you all my learning has been after I left the service. I have to perforce learn technology because of my inability to get assistance. So it is these, I think, which offer us any number of opportunities. I'm trying to speak from a perspective of end user, which I think Mrs. Sumita Davra has mentioned. We need to establish these linkages. No institution can work in isolation today. Universities will have to shed their isolation. I'm sorry to be saying that they still function with a great deal of insularity from the rest of the world. And we need to bring in people of outstanding merit and ability. I think our ability, this is an appeal to the Principal Secretary or Secretary, we need to bring in people from wherever they are. The really self-respecting people will not offer themselves. You have to search for them, offer them positions. When I was Commissioner Intermediate Education, I tried to say that application is only one aspect for giving an award. An award will not be application oriented. It is the job of the education administrator to search for excellence. And we have partnered with New Point in instituting awards for administrators at the school level, education administrators at the school level. So you'll have to make a lot of efforts at bringing in people with ability, eminence, impartiality into the education system. If you don't do it, I think universities will continue to languish, and any effort at institutionalizing excellence will to that extent suffer. Today, China produces 1.4 lakh doctors per year. We have about 40,000 of them, 50% of them are from the corporate world. And you can imagine the commitment of a fellow who has paid 70 to 80 lakhs for a seat. He is totally useless as far as the society is concerned. So there is need for scaling up education. There is need for spreading education. There is need for more online courses, democratization of education, because today, unlike about 50, 60 years back, there's a great deal of possibility of democratizing education by putting more and more courses online. IITs are doing it. Very eminent international institutions are doing it. If you make a lot of online education, spread these courses, link up institutions, play the role of a mentor, establish linkages with grassroots institutions, I think universities will certainly be very, very vibrant. Thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to a lot of extremely involved and inspired participation from the very distinguished members who are present here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You have thrown light into various spheres of this education, sir. Really, we are thankful to you, and it's a highly thought-provoking speech sir has given to all of us. Now we have to work out on those lines after Lalita gives some guidance to us. I request Lalita.
Good morning. I feel deeply honored to be in this with this group. The presence of such learned people in one space. I think it's a privilege to be in such learned company. Also, I know that each one of you is actively doing something out there, which is very precious, which is very important for the young people you're working with. So I do feel completely, not at all in the same league as all of you. What I'm doing is something very different. What you're doing is the real stuff out there. So the plan for the 2 days is mostly for us to answer 2 questions about the knowledge mission. One is where to start and the other is how to start. And of course, there are all of us giving you ideas, suggestions, and I'm sure that within the room each of you have at least 10 thoughts on your head on what you need to do first. Because you see you're in the actual field where you see the impact that you're creating on the young people, on the system that you're interacting with. So it will be, I think, an exciting 2 days where we will explore processes for collaboration as well as what to collaborate upon. So my job, as I see, is something like a traffic policeman. I see it as a person who is channelizing the communication. If there is a communication jam somewhere, I'll try to do something. If there is a communication flow which is free and smooth, then I'll hope to speed it up further. So the role of the facilitator in this kind of an interaction is that of, some signaling system where you as people who are actually going to do what you're going to do, you have freer space to communicate, to interact.